Former ActionSA Gauteng Provincial Chairperson Bongani Baloyi is about to announce his future plans following his resignation from ActionSA. He tendered his resignation today at a meeting with ActionSA leadership. Let's listen into the briefing.
No, thank you so much for being here. And I must really appreciate the manner in which you've responded under a very short turnaround time. So I can explain what has been happening. But firstly, I must really appreciate all the messages of support I have been receiving over the past few days and most of this weekend from church leaders, from business leaders, and from various other leaders of political parties as well, who have just called to wish me well and to understand what is happening. And also those who are concerned South Africans, who are equally concerned about what's happening in our country, where the country is going, and what the alternatives are for them in this country. And I must equally appreciate and thank my own church, the Shembe Church, for their prayers, and Nazareta for Imtandazo Yabo, and their counsel as well. That I really appreciate, and that has strengthened me during this difficult time. We live in a very fluid political reality in our country and the times that we find ourselves in. And therefore, the ability to adapt and change is where there's primary currency too. As many of you might be aware, that there's been some unfortunate and uncomfortable developments in ActionSA. And today, I really want to articulate those and explain to you how do we get here. Firstly, let's start with me leaving the Democratic Alliance, leaving a solid record of delivery and governance and 8 consecutive clean audits, which is a feat no mayor has done in this country, which is a feat no young person has achieved, which was subsequently achieved by myself. So that record still stands. I am still that guy, and even better with the experiences one has gone through. Leaving the Democratic Alliance was trying to find an alternative for the party, a party that can appeal to all South Africans and be able to capture the aspirations of all South Africans and deliver something to South Africans. But most importantly, a party that puts young people at the center of what they need to do. Because young people are the biggest shareholders in this country. The future is ours. What the government is doing today and various leaders is collapsing our country, which unfortunately will have a detrimental effect to young people for the future. Joining ActionSA was a very important and a happy occasion for me, because I was filled with hope and inspired with hope, because finally there's an alternative. An alternative started by Herman Mashaba, who left the Democratic Alliance to start an alternative for the country. And I really believed in the ethos and the vision of ActionSA because it represented and filled a void within the market, the political market, which is there. I was really happy to be embraced by many within ActionSA and develop significant and meaningful conversations and relationships with many members of ActionSA. So we began and embarked on a journey when I was initially appointed as a senator, which is a member in the highest decision-making body of ActionSA. I was able to make some key and fundamental contributions that have shaped the strategic thrust of ActionSA. And one of those fundamental contributions is the creation of what we call the South African dream. Now, the South African dream is a very important vision statement in our body politics because it articulates what is wrong in our country, but equally gives an expression about what we can do in our country. But the beauty of the South African dream is actually trying to appeal to South Africans to give South Africa a second chance of hope. And I appreciate that we are well within the second transition of our politics in our country after 1994. And this beautiful vision can coordinate, mobilize South Africans' aspirations in a promise for a better tomorrow. Why I led this process to deliver such an important document, because I saw a void in ActionSA, that beyond just saying we don't like ANC, vote for us, there must be something special and unique to persuade people on why to vote for ActionSA. And such a compelling strategic thrust document outward looking, is a document that you can appeal to needs of people, sense of people, and ignite inspiration to people. So they go out and vote for something as opposed to vote for against something. And that's the pattern now. People go to vote against something. We won't vote for this one because we want to punish them. But not we want to vote because of our hope, our vision for the future, our commitment, because we want something better. So I contributed that document which Herman Mashaba launched early this year. in the start of the campaign, building up towards the SONA address. What also contributed in ActionSA is what they call the political academy. What I found lacking in ActionSA as a new party is the appreciation that there is no appreciation for political consciousness. There is no understanding. These are majority new people who come from all walks of life, no experience in politics, but you are in politics. And I don't understand how politics work. But most importantly, there's no way of us getting people to assimilate to an internal culture of ActionSA, grounded on what ActionSA believes and fundamental to its ideology. So I birthed it. So today, as we speak and as I leave, there's a political academy, there's a South African dream in ActionSA, which happened in a short space of time while I was still just a senator. Because of my contribution, there was a realization that this man can deliver. Let's rather move Bongani Baloyi from just being a normal senator to a provincial chairperson of Gauteng. Now this I embraced because it's a new challenge. And I am knowledgeable. I know how to build structures politically, mobilize the ground, coordinate, and be able to move. And I have an appreciation of how Gauteng must behave as a structure in relation to the dynamics of our party. So I began earnestly working the ground, stabilizing, providing clarity. And what I also found lacking in ActionSA was the lack of understanding between structures, roles and responsibilities. Who must do what, how you must do that, how you launch branches. Just launch branches. And Gauteng said, wait, we were not just going to launch branches. We are going to develop an SOP that guides how you launch branches. The number, the quorum, and who must do these things. So what I'm showing to you is that I got into ActionSA understanding its weaknesses. And where there were weaknesses, I took it upon myself to close those weaknesses with something that's of value. So I always contributed value in ActionSA. Gauteng structures, I found some challenges. There was it was just after they had removed the regional leadership of Tshwane and Ekurhuleni. Only Johannesburg had a regional leadership. I embarked on a process to clarify that and to ensure that we can appoint a leadership. Now, Gauteng has 5 regions. Out of those 5 regions in Gauteng, 4 have regional executives. Which is something that I've done to stabilize the structures. I was intentional to take a posture insofar as national leadership to say to them, devolve more power to the structures. Devolving more power to the structures means you embark on a journey to start democratization within the party, where it's no longer Senate meeting about Gauteng issues without Gauteng engaging on those issues. So I was intentional. I was equally aware that it's going to create friction. But it was important for me to hold that posture to persuade and influence. And I was beginning to win the war in influencing and getting an understanding that you need to empower provinces. Now that you've appointed provincial chairs, give them power. Because now power resides at the top only and at Senate. And you've got these structures below who just remain now bystanders, and you can't do anything as a bystander in politics. So I fought the battle and championed the battle of devolving power to structures, and Gauteng took that uncomfortable position to persuade, to move, and that position, I believe, may have also created some tension. But tension in politics is a normal thing. I mean, from the past, even when I had tension with Helen Zille many years ago, tensions with James Self, they would still call me and say, Mchana, what are you doing? Let's talk, let's find each other. In this case, as the tension built, nothing. But you can see, no one is saying, but you can see what but no one is saying anything. So I moved aggressively to do that. But equally to also start sensitizing the Gauteng structures about the importance to lead the policy process, to start thinking about the policy process that we're going to champion and fight for, because we understand the electorate of Gauteng and what they want from a party and its policy manifestation. So I began that process. And I thought I was starting to win. We had a big event last year, closure, where we even slaughtered a cow for the members of Gauteng. It was fun on the 16th of December. Many of you were busy drinking savannas then. It was fun. We had a good time. And then this year, we're in Ekurhuleni, in the rain, with 300 members. In February, in terms of this performance matrix that ActionSA has, I was the provincial chair with the highest media hits. I met some of you in various different media platforms regularly because we were moving. We had a solid plan, we were implementing, and we were effective and we were efficient. And then I was called to a meeting last week, Monday. When I arrived at the meeting last week, Monday, there was Ethel Trollip, there was Herman Mashaba, Michael Bowman. At this meeting, Herman opened the meeting and said the following things to me, that he believes that there's a breakdown of relationship between me and him, and it's irreconcilable. And that breakdown of relationship has led to a distrust, a situation where there's distrust between me and him. But equally, for him to confirm that he has issues with me, how I engaged with him on our Senate meeting, which is our highest decision-making body, was confirmation to him that the relationship had deteriorated. So it felt to me that what I said there now has consequences. So you go to a national meeting, you raise critical issues which must be engaged upon, but it's then used later to say, but I didn't like how you engaged. And then he also says how we've been managing the province. He's got problems with that, and more so noting that there was a proposal, or rather a petition from some of the Tshwane colleagues to disband Tshwane as a region. Naturally, when there's something like that, it becomes the purview of the PEC to deal with it. So I embarked on a process, delivered all affidavits to the PEC. PEC wanted to engage in a process, afford those whom allegations are made about to respond. And then later we reconvened, we applied our minds and said we don't agree, because the basis of this is that so-and-so has a relationship with so-and-so, so-and-so is a friend of so-and-so. It's not substantive, and it's just baseless, unsubstantiated allegations. So then he says to me, because I don't trust you and our relationship has deteriorated, I want to move you as the provincial chairperson of Gauteng, and then appoint you as the national spokesperson. I was baffled at that moment, because I could not understand how, in the one breath, you can say there's a trust issue, our relationship has broken down, and yet you still want to appoint me in a position which works with you every day. But that's something for him to qualify. So obviously, after meeting with them, I requested time to apply my mind, and after leaving there, I engaged a few leaders in the party. I engage leaders in the regions in Gauteng, because what I appreciate about politics, you don't lead alone. It's not a Bongani thing. There's leaders who I lead with, who I take guidance from, and we engage critically as well. And leaders were upset, they were confused, but ultimately there was a view. Ultimately there was a very dominant view that we don't believe that you are still needed in this party. Because how do you remain in this party when the president says he doesn't trust you? The relationship is beyond repair, but he still wants to appoint you closer to him. For me, it does not make any sense. So I also I took to heart the question about, the input from him about how we're managing the structures. And I realized that in management of structures, it has created a situation where now in Gauteng, it's no longer about one person. It's now about the structure and the collective leadership that I'm leading with. We'll have events as a collective, the president will do his side events. And now we're saying, but why are we competing for the same space in Gauteng? I fought with engaged with the national chairperson and said, please, Michael, ask the president to reconsider. Ask the president to give us 80% of his time. And then with the 20%, he can do sporadic things and respond to sporadic things. That is fine. But let's at least grab a hold of the president's movements and where he's going to, so we can plan and be able to utilize, so we don't compete where he's going one direction, I'm going to the next direction. So Gauteng had a strong structure which was now impenetrable, where actually there was coordination, and I think that led to a collision point. So today I met with Herman and Michael Bowman, and I told them that I've applied my mind, I've engaged with many leaders as well, and I've taken a decision to decline their offer. And subsequently, I am resigning from the party. I think the big moment for me was in various people who are saying to me, stay and fight, let's democratize the party, let's do this, let's do this. I can't be a person who's going to be part of the distraction of ActionSA and create another cope. It is important for young people to start seeing different examples of leaders who thrive, who aren't as patient, who are agitated just like them. Because to change the political system will require young people to do that. Young people who will not sit in the corner and be told, "Wena sokususala, uyoshalala, uthule," and just be happy with national spokesperson. I am not that generation. I don't represent that generation. It also helps to at least ngidlulile degree. So those education issues are not an issue. I know I've got an experience, I've got a strong name, I've got a strong brand. I've delivered things in local government that no other leaders in this country has delivered in the space of time I've been there. And I've proven to anybody, beyond any doubt, that young people can lead and young people must lead. So I can't then be relegated somewhere because no process to justify, nothing, no accusations put to me, nothing at all, but just a decision. And I'm careful about what that means and how I respond, mostly careful about the wrong message that might go to young people. So I'm not going to allow that to happen to myself. My destiny is in my hands, firmly in my hands. Nobody can take away my education, nobody can take away my experience, no one. Now I've got more experience. I've been in an established party, now I've been in a new party. I know the best of both worlds. So I wanted to communicate to yourselves and South Africans that I did meet with the leadership of ActionSA and declined their offer on the reasons I've shared with you and decided to move on and that's where things are at this stage. Thank you. I can take questions. Okay, I'll give you numbers. We'll start at the middle. Say number 1, Natasha. Number 2. Okay, 3. Yes, let's go.
So it's Natasha Kiri here from SABC News. Mr. Baloyi, okay, so from what I'm getting from you, do you think that the leadership, because in the voice note that was sent by Michael Bowman, he says, and you also reiterated that there are differences between you and the national leadership of ActionSA. Do you think that perhaps Mr. Mashaba is threatened by you and your experience as a politician, because remember he came into politics as a businessman, right? And furthermore, what's your future looking like? Where are you going to go next year, 2024? Are you going back to the DA? Are you going to join somebody new, maybe a political movement? Yeah, what's the future looking like for you? Thank you.
Okay.
I'm Dina from ActionSA. I just want more clarity. It's not clear why. What are the irreconcilable differences? I mean, you were just called in a meeting all of a sudden. What were the issues with you and Herman Mashaba? And it seems, I don't know, if it's some sort of dictatorship that he gets to decide where you are moved to or what. How do you feel about ActionSA now in a more open manner?
Okay.
My question, Junior Command from News 24. My question is on how the situation in Tshwane is being handled. You spoke about how there was a call to disband the regional executive there, and you were uncomfortable about how this was being done. What exactly were you uncomfortable about? Does it have anything to do with Unkile, who also was let go by the party today?
Okay, okay.
Okay, sorry, just an additional one to Wellio's question. On you know, there's this narrative, and I think you know it by now, of who actually runs ActionSA. People have been saying that, you know, Michael Bowman is a prime minister, while Herman Mashaba is a leader. Can you just also clarify those things? Yeah.
Okay. Okay, no, thank you for your questions. The irreconcilable differences, myself, I don't know. Mina was told, Guti, Chief, we've got irreconcilable differences, and I don't trust you any longer. So, Mina, we have never sat down and where he said, I have the following issue with you. Here's the process we need to. We have never had any conversation to resolve any issues and try and persuade and find each other. that only happened with Michael Beaumont. And I must actually say, I've got lots of respect for Michael Beaumont. We have been engaging when there's issues, because they see that Gauteng is raising key issues, and they came back to us and wanting to understand those issues. So it's been with Michael Beaumont, and at all times we had uncomfortable conversation, but we found each other with him. So I must also correct that statement. It's not irreconcilable differences with national leadership. Ndate Mashaba said he has irreconcilable differences with me, which I don't know, because at no stage was there any conversation and testing of those things. So if there were allegations, there was never a process where allegations were made and I could defend myself. So I don't know. So I must refer the issue about irreconcilable differences to him to explain those irreconcilable differences that we have. Where are we going now? You must consult your Sangoma. Maybe she'll tell you. Mina, at this stage, issues are many at this stage. So, as I said, Avio, there's no differences between me and Mashaba, and Dr. Mashaba. He said there's differences, so he must explain those differences. And I explained to him again today that at no stage, everything I have done in the province was to strengthen, grow the party, and reposition the party, and to create a vibrant party. But you can't have a vibrant party without structure, without discipline. And I am a creature of discipline and structures. And that's important. And I also am a firm believer in developing other leaders. So that's why you see different leaders across the province and who are thriving. So for me, it was important to build a formidable structure of Gauteng, which applies its mind about policies, principles, and how you create a predictable environment and stable environment in politics. That's what I did. That stability is what I function well within, and system-driven. And this is my experience being in public sector and understanding how you build public institutions. So I took all of my experience and put it in ActionSA, in how you build structures and stability. So for me, maybe it might arise from there. It might arise, Guti. And the greatest challenge for ActionSA is, how do you resolve dispute? If the president says left and you say right, how do you resolve dispute? Is it something that immediately then puts you out of the door? What are other members of Senate going to say when they find themselves differing with him at fundamental level? So those are the things that they need to respond to themselves. Who runs ActionSA? ActionSA has a Senate. Senate has empowered with resolution, in the Constitution, Michael and the national leadership and Herman to run those functions. What we're doing as a province is wanting more say. And with my experience of building institutions, institutions are more important than individuals. Institutions must always outlast individuals. Look at Midval. I left there 2 years ago. It's still standing. That's institutions. When leaders appreciate, institutions must outlive. Now you must devolve power to the institution and create the right institutional culture as well. So we were moving in that line. So I can only defend what I try to do, and also at all times show young people that it's possible. The issue of the RSC, I was not uncomfortable. We put it through a process. Yeah, we put it through a process, because you can't come to me and say, dissolve a structure because so-and-so is dating so-and-so, and therefore the regional chair is a friend to Abel Dow, and if they're a friend to Abel Dow, then automatically it means things will leak. I said, no, nonsense. You can't, that logic is pedestrian. We're adults here. For an example, Mina, I've got friends in ANC, I've got friends in EFF, I've got friends in IFP. My partner is a supporter of IFP. So you'll come to my house sometimes when she's angry, she'll put on IFP, then I know there's issues. So if you come to my house, then you see those things, then you automatically, with that logic, you'll assume, Bongani is selling out. It's not correct. So we need to mature and help people, because that type of thinking is not the correct thinking. So that's the issue insofar as the Tswane dynamic.
Answer one of my questions. I asked if you think that Mr. Mashaba is threatened by you. And then furthermore, you touched on it, the issue of the ANC. I think it was one of the Sunday papers where you wanted to work with the ANC, apparently, and Mashaba said, yeah.
I'm really happy that question came. Yo. Is Mashaba threatened by me? I don't know. Only he can respond. but I was supportive, and I tried to enable his vision and help him build an institution which can represent South Africans. I really tried. I did my best. Let me explain how this ANC thing came about, once and for all. We were sitting at the Johannesburg Council, where there was an election of, I think, Dr. Palazzi, or vote of no confidence. And it was me, Michael Beaumont, and Panyaza Lusufi. And a conversation started there. And Panyaza Lusufi expressed to Michael Beaumont that the ANC is open-minded to working with coalitions in an effort, with multiple parties, in an effort to stabilize Gauteng municipalities. And then he asked Michael Beaumont, is this something you guys can pursue? At least we can talk. Michael Beaumont, sitting next to me, was very excited. And then right there, we left there and went to engage Mr. Mashaba. So I am accompanying Michael Beaumont to Herman Mashaba's house. We got there. Michael Beaumont explained the nature of the proposal. He tabled the proposal. Mina was even scared. Hey, we are touching this thing. What's this man going to say? ANC, working with ANC. After the things he has said. So Mina was a witness and accompanying person. So Michael Beaumont convinced Herman Mashaba that there's a potential here. We might even lead one of the metros as ActionSA. But let's consider the modalities. And we're throwing about phrases like co-governance, coalition, you take executive, we take oversight. Mina was excited because I just want stability of metros, and I can appreciate the impacts of lack of stability in these metros. Then there was an agreement there by Herman Mashaba that we must pursue conversations. Conversations led by who? Our national chair, Michael Beaumont. We then went back to Panyaza and the provincial secretary, TK. That same evening, that same day, things are happening. That day was a busy day. So we'll go back to them and then we start talking. Now everyone is happy that there's a conversation. Meanwhile, I'm accompanying and I'm also linking people together. That conversation further there was an agreement that Bongani is now going to work with someone from your side to put together some agreement.
That's the ANC.
Yes, yes. So there was also an intention to engage with EFF leadership at a stage, but it didn't materialize. Whilst that was happening, then Mr. Mashaba said, before you take anything to Senate, there must be a proposal. So I was then assigned to craft something with someone from ANC. We never got to craft anything because of the sensitivities, and I advised that it will be difficult. Imagine saying to ANC, let's have an MOU, an agreement. It might have to go to their PEC, and if it leaks, Mr. Mashaba made it quite clear that if it leaks, he will leave it with me, and he knows nothing. So I said, no, I can't pursue that. Rather, let's inform Senate that there are these developments. So before he went on holiday to Kenya, he wrote an email, a letter to all senators saying, I support what Bongani and Michael are busy doing. I endorse it. I think Senate must consider it favorably and consider this. And whatever decision Senate makes in my absence, I will completely endorse. But Bongani and Michael are working on something exciting. Then a physical Senate meeting was called without a formal proposal, because I did not want to insist on formal proposal, because now they're saying this thing will when it comes out, they'll leave it on my plate. So I said, no, I'm not pursuing that thing. Rather, let's go to Senate. Senate applied its mind, chaired by Michael Beaumont, with various proposals made. At the end, Senate said, let's evaluate all relationships with all political parties. And let's engage different political parties to try and find each other. But equally, it delegated, I think, a 4-member team. It was myself, Michael Beaumont, John Moody, Togo, Sis Togo from Mpumalanga, and Lerado as well as the national spokesperson. Now, we then had a formal resolution to go and reevaluate our relationship with everybody, including speaking to the ANC. And then we communicated that, went on an aggressive media drive to defend that ActionSA is now going to start talking to ANC. Mina, I am reacting and defending a resolution of the structure. So there's no longer Bongani, but there's a person who now must defend the party, and which I did happily. On the day Tate Mashaba comes back, I think he was doing an event with Bielt or something there by News 24 there. I think, or wherever. And they ask him about this, and then he says, over my dead body. Hey, now I get shocked. Now I don't know how to respond to this thing. And I inform the national chair and saying, but we have meetings on the following Tuesday. So I was then tasked to put together a program of people we meet. And I felt it's important before we meet political parties, let's also engage the stakeholders of local government. That is Salga, Imatu, and Samu, before political parties. It was important because whatever decision we make must be informed by these stakeholders who are affected by this mess and instability of coalitions. As the meeting started at 10 with just this team, Ndate Mashaba was on News 24, it was 702 with Clement. And there he said, over his dead body, will this thing happen? If people want us to work with the ANC, then he will resign. That moment killed everything. Because now I'm frustrated now. I'm saying, but this is mixed messages. I'm not sure. When we left, we'd agreed one thing. You deployed me to do one thing. I did exactly that. There was Senate resolution. I acted within the resolution of Senate. And now there was an interesting conundrum. There's a resolution of Senate and there's what Ndate Mashaba is saying. I knew right there it was my time to retreat and restrain myself and allow for the national leadership to deal with this impasse, because it's going to really affect the party. If there's too many voices raising their issues about this process. That's how this ANC thing comes. That's how people are lying that my main difference with Ndate Mashaba is about working with the ANC. It is a lie. He endorsed engaging with them. He gave us support. He was happy that we'd be able to co-govern either in executive only and there in legislature. That was what he consented and supported and gave us the mandate to go and do. So unfortunately, in media, then there's the thinking that it's Bongani, and I'm upset about that. And I've moved from there because I started to see that, hey, some things here, you must navigate tricky. So when the party leader starts to move left, hey, you must just stay clear. So I think I've really gone to detail about the ANC thing, and I'm putting it to bed. That there's a disagreement on the working with ANC policy is non-existent. It's a blatant lie. And I was never upset about that thing. I was really upset about how it then became Bongani and everyone removed themselves. And it's now Bongani is meeting with the ANC behind Mashaba's back. When Mashaba goes overseas for holiday, then things are happening. There's a coup in the party and there's people who are forcing him to leave because we're working with ANC. And no one defended me. And to defend myself at that stage would have caused chaos, and I chose to restrain myself for the interest of the party. But now I can speak about it.
Do you then believe then that Mr. Mashaba threw you under the bus? And maybe following up on my dictatorship question then, do you believe there's some sort of dictatorship within ActionSA that says, for example, what Mashaba says goes, no matter what the Senate says and decided, as you suggested happened in this case with the ANC?
Look, I think there's serious weaknesses and challenges in a party like ActionSA. And you can only build the institution after going through a number of these challenges. And they must really evaluate the internal mechanisms, the culture that they have. So it's a much more inclusive culture. It's a culture where there's no consequences for speaking out, but we can engage, differ, and the sharpest minds must persuade and lead this thing. I really think that's a problem for them to figure out, and they can respond to that. It's no longer my problem. I mean, I've done my part. So I really think they must work on some of the internal weaknesses that are there in dealing with that. I've answered you and not answered you.
What are those internal weaknesses?
No,
in your
yeah.
experience?
Look, there's the most obvious one is the leader in institution, and then you've got internal environment, which requires policies, systems, processes, and institutionalized democracy about how you make decisions, how you deal with conflict, and most importantly, how you deal with the thinking center of the party, and how you involve those from the bottom and find each other somewhere. So I think those normal political management issues, internal environment, is something they need to really reinforce and work on. And as the party grows, I think the national leadership needs to understand one thing: as the party grows, it's no longer a party of few. Everybody has the same type of membership. And I think they must really deal with different voices that sees differently about different things and managing that conflict. So that's what I really think that how do they grow beyond an individual to a party, to an institution? Those are some of the internal weaknesses.
We've heard today from Kele saying that she heard from Nancy Mashaba, who's alleged to be Mashaba's sister, that there's a number because she was dating Abel Dow. And there's always been a name that's been coming out also from Mr. Dow. Name, I think, Bafana is the one that he takes what's happening in the party. Can you tell me what are some of the challenges that you've had with Bafana and also, do you think what happened to Ngele is fair? And maybe the last one, where's your next political home?
Sure. Let's start with Bafana. Hey. So Bafana is a driver for Herman. His name crops up everywhere in the province. It is alleged that he is investigating people, leaders of ActionSA. It is alleged that he is coercing people. In the clips that we have all heard produced by Abel Dow, you can hear Bafana saying to Abel Dow, my proximity to Herman Mashaba is lethal. So, Mina, I can do anything. So it's a guy who seems to enjoy the full support of the president, but extremely rogue and causing instability in the province. A driver who brags about his ability to intercept people's communication, hack people's phones, who alleges he is working with the South African Secret Service and the Hawks, who alleges that I am being investigated, who alleges I am on Abel Daw's payroll. Hey, Guningi, man. You blink, this guy is moving all the time creating conspiracy theories. A driver. So we got frustrated with Bafana Mtimkulu's name constantly everywhere for a driver of the president and how his actions actually affect the party president. And we've appealed to Ndata Mashaba to reconsider his relationship with Bafana. So Bafana is really damaging this province. He's really doing things that should not be done. And I really think at some stage, some of you can ask Bafana, who are you, my brother? Who are you employed to? Are you employed by the Hawks? Because different people says different things. One day he's working with Hawks. One day he's working with South African Secret Service. And his strategy is simple. As demonstrated in the Tower recordings, he says, Mchana, someone wants to kill you. There's money on your head. And that does not come outside. He says in his voice, it's inside ActionSA. But you see, because I'm telling you this and I'm looking out for you, let's talk, man. Then he puts in his offer for business in the city. So that's how he's meandering and finding himself here. And we've continuously cautioned Dr. Mashaba that deal with this guy. He is abusing your proximity to you and creating a perception that he's a power source. And when we differ, and I don't understand what is a driver doing in politics of Gauteng, in regions, meddling, recording people. He was trying to coerce the regional chairperson of Tshwane to be a spy, to spy on me. And the fellow told him to go and jump. He said, no, I'm not going to do that thing. So Bafana is a real threat. You see, if one guy is going to kill ActionSA, it's Bafana. Where am I going next? You will know, I said to Natasha, you must consult your Sangom. But for now, I'm dealing with this part. Okay, let me start here, then I'll come back to you.
For this Emerson Hunger for Score Africa, we have seen you resigning on the same day where Kelly has been fired from ActionSA. We see more people leaving ActionSA who have been fired by the president, or is there a wish hunt for some members who allege that they voted with other parties in the Tshwane coalition when they were electing the new mayor?
Yeah, look, it's unfortunate. For me, I'm not personally involved in the process to get the individuals whom allegedly voted with the ANC and COPE. I'm not sure what's happening with that process. And the Ngele process, I am not sure. But what I do know is that Ngele was admitted to hospital last week, spent a few days in hospital. While she was in hospital, she was receiving messages that there's an urgent DC, she must be there, and she must stop using this excuse because they're using a clause in the Constitution that says she can be terminated immediately. So, which triggered her anxiety more and depression while she's in hospital, and was forced to respond while she was in hospital. So whatever process followed while she was in hospital, I am uncomfortable with. I really think as a party you must follow due process. You might want to get rid of somebody, but please follow due process and respect the process, because the bricks they are laying tomorrow, somebody's going to pick them up, and the same thing's going to happen to somebody else. And I really don't think that's the best thing. And it's unfortunate that that happened in such an environment. So those in Tswane, I don't know how they voted. I've not been part of the polygraphy test situation. So at that stage, as things were happening, then that's when the conversation with Ndata Mashaba happened, which then at that stage then requested me to stop effective immediately as being the provincial chairperson already last week Monday. So I was then cut out from all of those processes.
Do you expect more people to leave ActionSA?
I don't know. I came alone. I didn't come with anybody. So those who, people must apply their minds. And if they believe that they want to leave, they must exercise so. And I must appeal to those who want to leave, don't destroy. We are not those people. We come in nicely, we add demonstrable value, and then when things go bad, we walk away and we brief and be honest to South Africans why we are doing that. So I'm appealing to those who in ActionSA who may want to walk away, don't destroy. Just do it in a decent manner, just continue with our lives.
Just the last one from me also about Bafana. We've had allegations that Mr. Tao has made that Bafana has been influential in asking for tenders in Tswane in the name of Mr. Mashaba. As a party, you've spoken up also about the influence that he has there. Do you believe Mr. Tao's firing was fair? And then also, maybe just the last one. What have you spoken up to Mr. Mashaba about this, and what was his response in allegations that Bafana asked for tenders to be given to a cousin that's close to Mashaba?
Look, I think Abel Tao's process was a due process followed. And I think he is actually right taking it to court to ventilate it. I think it's good for jurisprudence and to understand the limitations and its process. If the court feels due process wasn't followed, then it's the court to give that view. So I'll leave it there. And on the issue of Bafana, there was a formal item tabled in a discussion about Bafana and these recordings. And it was found that these recordings are inconclusive, because there's issues of perception and apparently context. But Mina, I think I understand Spitor. So when I listened to those things, there was no context needed. It was clear what was happening. But there was a view that they need some context, and it's not there. And they just issued Bafana with a formal warning to say, stop doing this thing. We also don't know, I still don't know his title beyond being a driver, but seemingly he is a spy, sometimes works with the South African Secret Service, sometimes with the Hawks, sometimes he's calling generals who are assisting Tate Mashaba. So there's Guningi, man. You must focus on this Bafana guy, Guningi, man, this guy is, and you must actually help us understand who is this guy. I think please, man, please reach out to the Hawks and Secret Service and ask, is Bafana...
All right, it's 25 minutes past 3 o'clock. That is Bongani Baloyi, the former Gauteng Provincial Chairperson, on the back of his resignation there from ActionSA, announcing his future plans after resignation. We didn't get much from that. I think he said, consult with your Sangomas, telling our reporter Natasha Piri that in that briefing taking place in Sandton in Johannesburg. He adds that Herman Mashaba, the leader of the party, has said that there are irreconcilable differences between himself and Baloyi.